looks matter.
Yes.
And it applies a lot to technology. If you think about the phone you carry around, okay? A lot of times we're getting a new phone. You know, you want the new phone, not necessarily because it's so much more powerful, because maybe it looks better. Maybe the screen looks better. It has more, features.
That's what I was going to say, better features.
Yeah. So from a look standpoint, from an appearance and attractiveness standpoint, especially for an end user, having the right look and feel for your technology in your home is pretty important. Now, it's not just important because it's a pride factor or a show-off factor or things like that, but it's important because the experience itself, if it's a good experience, if it looks nice, if it feels nice, you're more likely to use it.
Yeah.
That the security industry traditionally has had a lot of bricky, big, thick
So
things.
thick.
Really big and thick. And this is not what you would consider modern technology. Now, don't get me wrong, these things are awesome. They've done a great job. They've really helped people adopt security systems and in many ways home automation and things like that. But I wouldn't look at any of these panels, no matter how big they are, no matter how new they are, and some of these, are only a couple years old, if not less than that, and say that they're modern technology, right? We associate everything with this, the smartphone. The smartphones that we have are what consumers carry around everywhere, and when you get into a car, when you walk into a Best Buy or a Target or things like that, if there's displays or kiosks, we measure everything, all the technology we interact with, based on whether or not it feels like your phone. When you get in your car, you just recently took a trip, and when you got in your rental car, when you touch this stereo, when you experience that stereo, you immediately think it's more or less modern based off your phone's user interface. And if you get a car, if you're in a car that has an older touchscreen that's lower resolution, it might still be a touchscreen, it might still have navigation, but you still think it's what?
It's older.
It's older.
You're a little disappointed.
Yeah.
No Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Yep.
No Bluetooth, no high-resolution screen, no apps, no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You kind of expect that stuff out of technology.
Yeah.
And we do that. And then, of course, if you're in a car that doesn't even have a touchscreen and it's just the dials still, the digital readout.
Even worse.
Yeah, it's even worse. And you think, boy, this is not modern technology. And the same thing happens here. Again, as great as these systems are, when you get one of these systems and you think rubber button keypad that illuminates.
No screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little digital readout. It doesn't feel like modern technology.
Yep.
And so it's not that this is bad. These still work great in people's homes, and there's a lot of people who have them, but they don't pay top dollar for them. They don't show it off to their friends. You don't say, oh, come here, you got to come check out my new security system. It's got buttons that glow, and it's got a robotic voice that speaks to you. You don't show it off, okay? But when you get a new phone, you show it off.
Everyone to see it.
And we believe the same thing holds true with the IQ panel. Definitely. When you have something as beautiful as the IQ panel, then the look really matters to a customer, and they'll show it off to their friends. They will say, look how cool this thing is, look what it can do. Now, the reason the IQ panel can be so thin, and when you compare...
So thin.
I mean, compare the thickness of any of these, okay? It's a massive difference. But the reason it can be so thin is because of this Qualcomm Snapdragon. This Qualcomm Snapdragon system on a chip has everything that these guys are normally buying and building from different places and trying to put in certain places to make them work. This has all of it built into one small thin piece because it was built for a tablet. So that's one of the things Qolsys did a little bit differently is we started with a tablet, the Qualcomm Snapdragon, and we said, what can we add to it to make it security? So this tablet class system on a chip has Bluetooth, it has the LTE radio, it has Wi-Fi.
And that's all here.
That's all in here.
Okay.
And then we've added these extra radio daughter cards to it so that we can add in things like Z-Wave and security, a lithium-ion or backup battery, a siren, things like that. And some of this, the stuff that's already on here already has technology for things like the camera or the audio ports or speakers or things like that. So we don't have to build separate things and do stuff. We can make things really small and thin because we're leveraging a tablet and then adding to it the few things that need to be security. So by adding a thin, small battery, a small but high-powered siren, and then small, thin radios for the non-tablet-like classifications of things like Z-Wave and security and encryption and things like that, we're able to keep the form factor very, very thin. You can see here's the IQ panel on a table stand. okay? But you can see that form factor is tremendously thin when you compare it to almost anything. And it's,
comparison.
yeah, really no comparison. So from a look and feel standpoint, the plastics and the size of it is pretty important, but it's not just about the plastics and the size. It's also about the user interface, the ability to swipe and touch and navigate
Again,
easily.
just like your phone.
Yeah,
Because I'm looking at this, I don't know if I would know how to use that and be confident.
yeah. You'd say, well, how do I arm it? How do I disarm it? But this feels like your phone.
Here
You're
you
swiping.
you wanna play with it and see the different features.
You swipe, you touch, and IQ Panel is easy to use. You touch something, you look at it, and when you're done, you swipe it away. Okay? We use horizontal scrolling to get between different categories. So lights, locks, thermostats, and dynamic pagination, it's a nice little term we use, to automatically, dynamically add pages that you have categories for. So the moment you add a light, you get a lights page. The moment you add a lock, you get a locks page. If you don't have a thermostat, you won't have a thermostat page. So there's nothing to confuse you there. With these rubber buttons, if you wanted to have a thermostat control on here, you'd have to have a button dedicated to thermostat, whether you had it or not. Because it's not like software could dictate what the buttons are. Okay? Some of these other ones have the ability to have those things, but without the ability to do software updates, and again, that's part of the magic of, this Qualcomm system on a chip, is we have a connection to Wi-Fi, and we have the ability through Android to do over-the-air software updates. So as we continue to develop new things, we can put it on there, which then expands out the user interface to give more things.
Yeah.
Okay? So a lot of really easy ways to use it. Look and feel is very, very important. Look and feel is going to make a big difference for your customer. It's going to make them use it more. If they use it more and they love the way it looks, they're going to refer their friends. They're going to want to add more categories like lights, locks, thermostats. They're going to want to add cameras. They're going to want to do all sorts of things because they can use this big, beautiful screen.
It is really pretty.
Thank you.